Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Mike Barletta back with another tropical update on Tropical Storm Marco and Tropical Storm Laura. Uh, we got a lot to cover today, so let's get into it. But before we do, if you guys could follow my Twitter and my Facebook at Mike B. Weather and make sure to like and subscribe. These videos take a long time to make. So if you guys could do that, that'd be great, but let's get right into it. So this is Tropical Storm Marco splitting the uprights between the Yucatan Peninsula and western Cuba. Initially, we thought this system might go over the Yucatan, track a little bit further west, but that has not been the case. I'll get into why that is in a minute and the further implications that it's going to have down the line. And it's a little confusing. I put both of the storm tracks on here just for now so you guys can see. This is the current 11 a.m. just came out cone for Tropical Storm Marco, and going on to Laura now, this is the cone for Laura. You can see they kind of intersect here a little bit, and I'll get into exactly what that means and the implications of what exactly is happening. But I outlined the two cones for you guys so you could see. Tropical Storm Marco expected to become a hurricane later today. But I really just wanted to put these up here to show you guys how unprecedented of a situation this really is. This is not something you see very often, especially not in the Gulf of Mexico, with two forecast cones coming so close and intertwining at some point. So this is an extremely unique situation, an extremely difficult situation to attempt to forecast for. Something like this has never ever happened before, at least not in the Gulf of Mexico. So this is where everyone is learning along with each other basically on what exactly is going to happen. We have a pretty good idea, nothing set in stone, and I'm going to get into that right about now. We're going to start it off looking at Tropical Storm Marco, the cone I just showed you. This is the current cone. We expect this to travel to the north-northwest before making landfall, likely along the Louisiana or Texas coastline somewhere, as a potential minor hurricane or tropical storm. We are expecting an update to hurricane later sometime today. The storm has really spun up pretty fast because it's a small storm. Currently, we're sitting at 65 mile an hour sustained winds moving to the north and northwest at 12 miles an hour. You could see some tropical storm warnings posted for western Cuba, the northeastern peninsula of the Yucatan. Not really expecting too much of anything crazy there. The storm is very, very small, as I stated before. And as I stated before as well, we're looking for an update to hurricane status. With these storms, they could pulse up and down very, very quickly. Now taking a look at the current satellite picture, a much better look from yesterday. Yesterday there wasn't much convection. The storm still is a little elongated, but we could see the center of circulation right in there. Pretty good cloud tops. We haven't had a big burst of convection yet today with those negative 80-degree cloud tops, but we're seeing some negative 65 to negative 70, negative 75, coming up to negative 80 in the eastern portion of the storm where the strongest winds are, degree Celsius cloud tops. So a much better look from yesterday, looking like a pretty healthy storm. We're getting some nice outflow to the north, some nice outflow to the south. Overall, it's looking like a pretty healthy storm. We'll see if this continues to strengthen. Satellite's a very good tool to see exactly what's going on inside the system, but the best tool we have is the hurricane hunters, and that's exactly what we're looking at now. Earlier this morning, there was a plane in there further south. We found the center of circulation, or they did. They do a great job. And we saw all this morning it was starting to slowly strengthen. It was at down here 1,008 millibars, and then it dropped to 1,005. And then the last plane found a center over here, 1,003, indicating a north-northwestern motion. And now the latest plane that we found, 998, and now down to 995. So over the course of the last few hours, we've dropped about 12, 13 millibars. And the most recent update has this storm at 993. So we're down almost 15 millibars from earlier this morning. So a very quickly intensifying storm. But what to know about that is that these storms do tend to pulse up and down very quickly. So as fast as this ramped up, it could potentially have the chance to ramp down, but we're not really expecting that right now. Currently undergoing a period, as I stated before, of rapid intensification, And to see why that is, well, before we do look at why that is, we could see where the strongest winds are. Strongest winds definitely in the eastern part of the storm, western part of the storm, barely even up to tropical storm force in some regions. So we'll monitor the exact wind swath, definitely as we get closer to a potential landfall in the United States. But taking a look a little more into the technicals of why this storm is strengthening. So this is a wind map of wind shear, the GFS, 200 millibar. This is the wind speed, 200 millibars in the air, so that's very, very high up, that upper atmosphere. And we could see the jet stream is going a little like this. We have an anticyclone over here. And that is kind of why we're traveling a little further east. As I stated before, initially we thought we were going to travel right over the Yucatan, but this upper level jet stream has pushed the storm. Since the trade winds exactly where Marco are a little bit weaker, the storm's just kind of drifting to the north right now. And a big portion of why this storm is strengthened, as we could see, not much wind shear going on right here. We are getting some help, as I stated before, from the jet stream to the northwest, winds moving from the southwest to the northwest, kind of helping with Marco's outflow. And if we take a look at that, we could see that jet stream wind coming across like this. We could really see it's kind of helping the system breathe a little bit, getting a little bit of outflow in there. So that's really just why this storm has started to strengthen. Of course, the ocean temperature is very, very warm as well, but we're expecting this storm to kind of just drift to the north before starting to really make a move to the west, as this trough does eventually pass by. That you'll see in my next slide, this trough is going to pass by to the east, and with that we're going to get some winds blowing back to the west. So this is the GFS model. We'll take a look at what exactly happens. So you could see this trough ends up kinking, moving a little bit further to the north, and therefore the trade winds start to push a little bit further to the west, hence why we're not going to see this storm just get caught by the trough. If this trough was just moving through, the storm would likely get caught by the trough and accelerate to the northeast, but that is not what's going to occur. This trough, as you could see, is pulling back, getting a little kink in it, and this storm is going to kind of follow along with it. Now, once we do get into the Gulf of Mexico, we could see not a whole lot of wind shear going on there either, but we are expecting a limit to how strong Marco is going to get, because the winds are going to change direction a little bit. From this southwesterly wind shear, that's currently helping the outflow, as you could see at the end of the frame, these winds are pointing a little more to the north, which is not very good for a storm to strengthen. So that may be good, which is why National Hurricane Center weakens this to a tropical storm before landfall. Still going to have to see exactly what's going to happen with that. Nothing is set in stone. The environment in the Gulf of Mexico isn't too bad for development, but it's not going to be pristine and perfect either, as we could see by that jet stream kind of creating a little bit of a difficult time for this system. Now, taking a look at the current dynamical model tracks, most of the models, besides a couple outliers, take this storm somewhere within this region, which is right in the National Hurricane Center cone. I don't really expect a track this far east with this system, nor do I expect a track really this far west with this system. I believe splitting the difference is the most likely scenario. But yeah, these are the current tropical storm model guidance, for Tropical Storm Marco. Now, this is the current intensification models for Tropical Storm Marco. As you can see, most of these models do get this storm up to, or about maybe half of them get them up to hurricane strength. I think come the 18Z update, which is in about 4 hours, 3-4 hours-ish, we're going to see definitely more of these members get this storm to a Category 1 and Category 2. I think major hurricane is not going to happen. Not completely out of the question, but I just simply don't believe that is going to be the case. And you could see they all make landfall when the storm really starts to weaken. So the storm will make landfall somewhere around 84 hours, and you could see we hit a peak in about 2 days before all the models really start dropping off the intensity. So that goes to show you that most of the models do think this is going to be a weakening storm up until landfall and not a strengthening storm, which is a very, very good thing for much of the Texas and Louisiana coastline. Never want to see a strengthening storm up until landfall, but we're definitely going to have to monitor the trends. As much as these models do push this thing a little further down, they could level it off or go a little bit up, especially come the next update. I really would not be surprised to see that. So now we're going to go and take a look at Tropical Storm Laura. Currently still a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm, still struggling a little bit, looking better than it did yesterday, which we'll definitely get into. But we're expecting this storm to track right over the Dominican Republic, right over Cuba, which is not going to allow for very much strengthening until we do get off of Cuba. Then we're going to have potentially still a tropical storm and the potential upgrade to a hurricane once we get over those Gulf of Mexico waters. As I showed before in the previous slides with that wind shear, if you noticed, there was a real lull in wind shear right around this area, which is going to be pristine for this system to begin to strengthen. So the National Hurricane Center has this as only a Category 1. I think I have to say I truly believe that there's potential for a little bit more there, if not getting close somewhere to major hurricane status. Potentially, this is not a set in stone thing, but the potential is definitely there for this to become a stronger storm in the Gulf of Mexico than what we are currently predicting. But as of right now, the going right over the Dominican Republic in the short term and right over Cuba going to definitely limit the development. As we know, the Dominican Republic, a lot of high mountain ranges in the Dominican Republic, which can disrupt circulations. Now, normally, circulations that get disrupted are stronger, tighter circulations. This storm does not have a very strong or tight circulation, so it may be able to survive a little bit better than some of the very strong storms that go over there do. But definitely going to have to keep an eye on that tomorrow into Monday. So taking a look at the satellite imagery for Tropical Storm Laura, looking much, much, much better than it did yesterday. We are able to see there was a lower level circulation over here that's currently trying to develop further southeast, over the stronger convection, which I will get to in a second. I'll show you a cool radar image of that actually occurring. Definitely, this is looking like a strengthening system. We're getting some good outflow. We see definitely an area of circulation over the center. We might be able to intensify a good amount before getting into Hispaniola, and that intensification is going to definitely pause as we have these high mountain ranges that tend to disrupt centers of circulation. But this storm really is looking rather healthy this morning, and we'll have to monitor this as the day goes on, but currently still just a minimum 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm. I'm expecting that may be upped come the next update at 2 p.m. a little later in the day. Now, taking a look, as I said, at that radar image, now it looks pretty obvious where the center of circulation is here, right in this area, even developing a little bit of an eye wall feature. But earlier this morning, you could see a little bit of spin up here as well. This was the lower level center of circulation. It looks to be dying out. It was over northeastern tip of Puerto Rico and looks to be kind of displacing itself a little bit further to the southeast. Now, the reason this happens is if you have the lower level center over here and you have much of the convection with the mid-level center over here. This is the mid-level center. This is the lower level center. This mid-level center, which is obviously currently much stronger, has much stronger convection, is going to start to carve out another low-level center over here as the storm starts to vertically stack. So as that storm starts to vertically stack, even though the lower-level center is further to the west, this mid-level center has all the updrafts, and you could even see it starting to clear out an eye. So all those updrafts are going up and out, and then that's how you start to form an eye up here. And you'll eventually, once the storm vertically stacks, start to get that eye to develop all the way down to the surface. So it looks like as of right now, this lower level center is starting to die out and move and displace back over the mid-level center. A complicated process. If you guys have any more questions about that, put that in the description. I don't want to get too complicated, but that's overall the general idea. You have this lower level center starting to displace itself back towards the mid-level center because the mid-level center has all the convection and all the thunderstorm activity. So just a quick little learning session there for you guys. Now, taking a look at the dynamical models for Tropical Storm Laura, very good agreement over the next 2 days, and by Monday that this storm will be somewhere over Cuba. I have a couple models a little further south, a couple models further north, but most of the systems, most of the models go right over the heart of Cuba, and that's when we really start to diverge. We haven't really gotten much of a better idea than we did 2 days ago where this system is going. Initially, they had it into the Bahamas and going right into Florida. Now they've continually moved further west. Now we're at the point where the cones for Tropical Storm Marco and Tropical Storm Laura actually pass each other, and could make landfall rather close to each other. Not at the exact same time. Laura will make landfall a little bit later, but regardless, still a very interesting situation. But most of the models do take the cone of uncertainty somewhere in and around here, right over Louisiana, into western Texas, and into eastern, or really most of coastal Mississippi. So that's really the big story as of right now. 2 landfalling potential hurricanes. And very close to each other. This has, as I stated before, this has never ever happened before, especially not having 2 hurricanes at the same time in the Gulf of Mexico. Never happened, not at least not within the National Hurricane Center records has that ever happened before. So we have the chance for a very, very unique situation in this part of the country and in this part of the world. This simply does not happen too often. Now, we do see some of the models a little further south, some of the models a little further east. These further south models, not sure how much sense they make because at this time, Tropical Storm Laura would have just been over there. So it's a very, very complicated situation and one that's going to keep developing as time goes on. But before we do end this video, let's look at the intensification forecast. Most of the models, more than half of the models, get this over hurricane strength at this point. We still do have some models keeping this at a weak tropical storm. Possible. I think it's unlikely, personally, that this stays as a weak tropical storm, as there's not going to be much wind shear in the Gulf of Mexico at the time. But obviously, we do have some outlier solutions here with the Category 4, Category 3 hurricane. Not really expecting that right now, but as I stated before, the potential is there for a stronger hurricane than just a Category 1. So we're definitely going to have to keep our eyes out for something along those lines. Still too early in the game. We're still 2 to 3 days away from this being into the Gulf of Mexico. So there's still a lot that we need to learn and a lot that we need to look at and review for exactly what's going to happen. Make sure you guys go follow my Twitter and my Facebook. That's where I post most of my updates. Every day, all the time. Those updates will be there right when they come out, right when I see anything that you guys need to be alerted to. We'll be over there. Make sure to like and subscribe. I put a lot of effort into these videos, like I said before. It would mean the world to me if you guys did that. You guys have an awesome day. If you have any comments, leave them in the description down below, or any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. You guys have a great day. I'll be back soon with some more content, and stay safe out there.